Well, good morning. How you doing? Hope you're having a great start to your day. Looking forward to our time together this morning as we talk about the brain again. Holly, how are you? Rosa, good morning. Mike from Norland. Bethel, how are you? Nick from our staff. Francis Marie, good morning. Debbie Ann, how are you? Holly says it's 100 degrees in Kansas again. Kevin, how are you? Mary Jane, I think that's Connecticut, isn't it? Evangeline, Cape Breton. John, Owen Sound. Suzanne, Len and Judy, I know where you're from. Edmonton, Alberta. Mary, Chantal, bonjour, Ottawa. Jim, Lynn, Laraine, Wendy, Markham, Claudette, Jeanne, South River. Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Jeanne and Jean, dear friends. Andrea, Nouveau-Brunswick. Yolande, bonjour. Linda, oh, Linda, are you the Linda? Sherry, oh, Sherry, baby. Donna, Newfoundland. Karen, Alberta. Laura Janet, good morning. Heather, Thunder Bay. Natalie, Oshawa. Helena, Cambridge. Alma, good morning. Donna from Bell Valley. Carol, Moncton, New Brunswick. Anna, Joan, good morning. Beata, we appreciate you. A couple of more. Doris, how are you? Sherry, ooh, I want to sing. Lise, Amelia, Roma, Brampton, Maureen, good morning. Helena, Wendy from Wasaga Beach. Oh, must be beautiful now. Carol Ann, Aline, Elaine, and Anne. Kingston, Karen, Kincardine, Dawn, Debbie, Sturgeon Falls, Maria, and Kathy, and Sue, Bolton, and Brahim. How are you, buddy? Portland, Oregon. Tharindi, how are you? Dana, another Donna. Barbara, Barbaran. I couldn't help myself. And another Sherry from Fergus. Sherry. Okay, let's get going. Yesterday we talked about the toxic brain. And we went over that. The CDC was mentioning that they're finding up to 300 chemicals in the blood. And I was relating yesterday how toxic that is for the brain. Now, today we're going to talk about the addictive brain. The addictive brain. So yesterday we talked about the toxic brain. Today we're going to talk about the addictive brain. Now, do you know who Philip Morris is? Do you know who Philip Morris is? Waiting. No, it's a question, but some of you know this, some of you might not. They were the maker of the #1 selling cigarette in the world, Marlboro cigarette. Remember the Marlboro man? Well, Philip Morris was the largest tobacco company in the world. And when tobacco sort of went, the rates of smoking went down, Philip Morris, in their wisdom, decided to get into the food industry. From a financial standpoint, smart move. And the world's leading cigarette company, makers of Marlboro cigarettes, in 1970 acquired the Miller Brewing Company, beer company. 1970. But listen to this. In 1985, they acquired General Foods. And then in 1988, they acquired Kraft. Processed foods are the tobacco of today. Philip Morris is now the largest food company in the world. Buying Kraft, buying General Foods. They make everything you see, just about everything you see in the middle aisles of your grocery store. General Foods, from cereals to you name it, Kraft. You're well aware of that company. Crappy dinner. Crap dinner. But guys, here's what I want to talk about today. Philip Morris was in the tobacco business, and they shift their, I don't even know if they're still in the tobacco business. Maybe they still are. I didn't look that up. But they've become the largest food company in the world. And they're not stupid. They knew how to addict you with tobacco. They hid their studies on tobacco. That's well established. They liars, pants on fires about tobacco. And, in the 1970s, my dad figured it out. He read an article, I remember, and I was about 10 years old. In 1962, my dad came home and quit smoking. And he said, well, there's studies out that showing it causes cancer. And my dad opened up the waste paper basket in front of his family and said, I'm not smoking anymore. And that was a big shock to me, because in my house, my dad smoked, my mother smoked, my 3 older brothers smoked. Everybody smoked. It was just a cloud of haze. You went everywhere. And that's the way it was. I remember going to see my brothers. My 2 older brothers played on the same team, hockey. And they'd fill the arena in Timmins. And, it was amazing that you could even watch the game. There was so much smoke. I mean, it was like a cloud over the ice surface. It was people smoking. And I guess I could have become a smoker. But the fact that my dad quit had a big effect on me. My dad was my hero. My mother never quit. I wish she had. But my dad did. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about is addiction today, the addictive brain. Now, here's what we know about smoking. Okay, here's what we know about smoking. Why do people smoke? Because in 10 seconds, like I was behind a car yesterday, and the car in front of me, the guy in front of me, had his window open, and we were at the lights and waiting on a red light, and he was puffing on a cigarette. And, with the window open. And, I observed it, and in my mind, I was going to the addictive mind. You could tell he was addicted. He couldn't get enough puffs. During the, 30, 40 seconds we were at the red light. I mean, he would get the most out of that cigarette. But here's what we know about smoke. Within 10 seconds of lighting up a cigarette, the addictive center, the pleasure center in your brain, smoke gets to it. Nicotine gets to it. And what the Philip Morris company knew, that's what cigarettes did. They hid that to the world, but they knew. There's actually a movie about it, how they got prosecuted and lost, paid millions and millions of dollars for their deception. Now, but Philip Morris is now into the food industry. And they're making addicts, again, not from smoke, but from sugar. And do you know how fast sugar gets to your brain? What did I say about smoke, nicotine? 10 seconds. But studies have been done, guys, so I'm just giving you the results of studies. When you consume sugar, it's instantaneous to the pleasure center in your brain. And food companies know it. They hire people. They're taste people. They are the sweetness people. They actually hire scientists so that you will become a 100% regular customer. They're in, folks, to the addicting business. Now, if you wanted to go with me to the grocery store, and if you and I, if you came and then we would just walk around the aisles and observe people's choices when it comes to food, well, we all know what's happening. But it was done on purpose. Addiction. People don't realize how drawn in they can become when the food companies do it on purpose. They have crunch scientists. The crunch has got to be right. The sweetness has got to be right. The saltiness has to be right. The fat content has to be right. Okay? So, here's what they're into. instantaneous gratification. It's incredible. It is, guys, think about this for a bit. You guys know this, so I'm preaching to the choir here this morning. Think of how powerful the pharmacist, when I bring you health news behind the news, think of how powerful the pharmaceutical companies are, the food companies are, and then, of course, the social media companies. They run the world, folks. Politicians don't run the world. These three conglomerates, they run the politicians. When someone tells you to follow the science, that is coming from the pharmaceutical industry or the food industry or the social media industry. They have a narrative. And politicians, with rare exceptions, I hate to use the word bought and paid for. And that's why you and I cannot wait. We can't wait till the government says, oh, sugar is bad for you. It ain't going to happen, folks. Because the food industry, they're powerful. And I don't know what the ratio is in Canada compared to the States, but they have lobbyists paid, the pharmaceutical company, for every congressman in the United States have 3 lobbyists for every one of them. They're in Washington, they're full-time, and they lobby the government. Politicians, 3-1. Every politician, every congressman, every senator, whatever, they got 3. Now, the food company, I'm not quite sure. I know they would have 1 or 2. And what the food companies did, and you have to, look, as far as marketing goes, you got to give them credit, okay? Give them credit where credit is due. I don't like what they did, but I give them credit because they knew how to stay on top. You know what they did? First of all, they created a separate, there's no real nutrition in medical schools. One, there's 2 reasons for it. The pharmaceutical companies won't allow it. They won't allow it, and they sponsor the medical schools. And the food industry won't allow it. Here's what they did, and they are very, very smart, very creative. They started dietitians and nutritionists. They sponsored them. They started their schools. And it always had to do, where do you think, guys, that food pyramid came from? Cereal. Your grains. You need bread. You need pasta. You need rice. And fruits and vegetables. They'll give you that. And a little bit of meat. Not much. It's upside down, guys. The pyramid. Where do you think that come from, that pyramid? It's not science. It's propaganda. You have to go behind the scenes. And they're into the addiction business. They went after my children. My children were born in this. They're not children anymore. I got two of my kids, Tony Jr. included. My children are, two of them out of four are grandparents already. And I told them, I told you, if you'd have known grandchildren are that much fun, you'd have had them first. my son and one of my daughters, their grandparents, and good luck with great grandpa here trying to get through. It's like trying to get through the offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers to try and get at my great grandson and my great granddaughter. I got two great granddaughters. Good luck. When you're a great grandparent, you're at the back of the bus. But you know what the food companies did? They went after my kids. They went after your kids and your grandchildren. They're doing it today. What do? Cereal. Better than bacon and eggs. Cereal is good for you. It's got fiber. And they actually, I watched them do it. I know you think I was born in the days of Noah. Just about. But I watched. I'm an observer. I've had a radio show for so long. You have to understand, I've been doing this for a long time. Observing, watching, getting behind the scenes. I watched the food companies want to addict my children. They went from smoking, and when it wasn't so kosher to smoke, they went after food. And boy, they accomplished. Look at society today. Every second person is either diabetic or pre-diabetic, and 88% of the population are on the broad road leading to destruction. You know how they do it? Addiction. Now, for 35 years, I was a volunteer in the prison ministry. And I'll tell you, people that are incarcerated, I can tell you that with great experience. It's 99.9% addiction. That's why I'm so against drugs. I don't like it because there's a certain percentage they get addicted, and it ain't good news. But anyway, that's another area. But food and the tobacco company, that is the biggest food company in the world, weren't stupid. They knew how to, they were in the addiction business. And today's topic is the addictive brain. The pleasure center in your brain. I always, you know me and visuals, right? I like visuals. So here, you've got to pretend for a second in your mind. I'm going to give you an explanation. You go to a forest, okay? Go outside your city or town or whatever. Get out into the bush, okay? And there's just a bunch of trees. And, you know, space in between. Okay, got that image in your mind? Now, what they showed about the addictive brain is sugar, for example, and we talked about it in response. Sugar is instantaneous. And what it does, think of the forest, it carves, the first time you have sugar, it carves a little, this has been proven, by the way. It carves a little path to your brain. It carves a path right to your reward center. So have you ever gone out in the bush or whatever and you see a path in the bush? Well, you know, people have been through there. They're walking along a path. That is what happens inside the brain, in the reward center of the brain, the dopamine center of the brain. And the food companies are experts at it. They know how to hook. And guys, you're old. I'm teasing you, okay? Please, don't get upset. I'm assuming there's no kids. But folks, the food companies are after your kids. They want a lifelong customer. Instant gratification. Now, I'm going to tell you about a study that was done. I probably told you about this before, but I'll do it again. Okay? So they take mice or rats. I can't remember which one they use. They have a maze, okay? And they have a little string with a sugar cube. Okay? And, the mouse or the rat runs through the maze, sees the sugar cube hanging down. They jump up on their hind legs and they take a little bite. Okay? Now, here's what they did. This is an experiment that's been done. Once that mouse tastes the sugar, what the researchers did is they put an electric current. They actually give. So then they put the mouse back at the back end of the maze, and the sugar cube is there. But this time, they put an electric current. They're going to shock the little critter. So when it comes up to get the sugar again, they zap it. Zap. And it's not pleasant. But you know what? It doesn't matter how many times that mouse or rat gets zapped. They're addicted from the first crunch of sugar. Did you know that? And a lot of human beings are the same way. I gotta have my Pepsi. You know what the number one fruit is in North America? It's orange juice. Well, Doc, I'm getting my vitamin C. No, you're getting your vitamin bad. You might as well have a Pepsi. What's the difference? You're hooked. I tell you guys, now, one of the things about the reset, I'm always coming back to the reset. Am I not? My friend, I got to tell you something. The reset is meant for addicts, food addicts, sugarholics, carboholics. And remember, bread's going to turn to sugar in 5 seconds. I don't care if it's whole wheat or 27 grain, Oh, doc, I have 27 grain bread. Isn't that good for me? No, it's sugar, honey. The reset. You're not having any sugar. And once you hit the 3-week mark, you know what happens. You empty your liver. We talked about the brain and how that helps the brain yesterday by elevating your glutathione. When you empty your liver, you're elevating your glutathione, which is your Velcro in your body that mops up sticks, toxins stick to it. That happens in the first week. You change your triglycerides, your HDL, blah, 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 blah. All good. But one thing it does, it gets you off sugar. And a lot of people, they don't realize, people that they get a little bit of reaction in the first week to changing fuels like that. And a lot of times, my name is Tony and I'm a carboholic. You didn't realize how many carbs you were eating. And now your body is saying, hey man, you got to give me that carb. You got to give me that sugar. I'm an addict. I've talked to addicts in jail. Listen to what I'm going to say. They said, Dr. Martin, I would steal off my grandma to get my next fix. If grandma was in the way, she was in trouble. I would steal off my grandma. That's what addicts are. And the problem with food addiction is you can't hide from it. Where are you going to go? What planet are you planning on leaving to if you got a food addiction? You're a carboholic. You're a sugarholic. It's all around you. That's why I always talk about the 3 Ds. Desire, determination, and discipline. It's not easy. I didn't say it was easy. I'm here to pump your tires. Pump your kids' tires. Your grandchildren's tires. Pump them up. They're in a war for their health. And the food industry hates their guts. They promise reward, but it's going to kill you. Sugar kills. Sugar is toxic. If you don't believe me, ask a diabetic. Sugar is toxic. We talked about chemo brain yesterday. The toxic brain. Well, sugar is toxic, guys. Yep. Sugar is toxic. And so, the food industry. They're not there for you. They're there for them. And I'm not saying there isn't good people in working for those companies. I'm not saying that. There's food scientists like me. They work there. And they try and do their best, I'm sure. But it's good to know that. It's good to know it. And I want my audience, I want you guys to be aware of these things. And I know, like I always tell you, you're the smartest. You're smarter than the average bear. Let's put it that way. Isn't that what they said about Yogi Bear? He's smarter than the average bear. I used to love that cartoon when I was a kid. Yogi Bear. Okay. Now I'm dating myself. Okay, you know what tomorrow is, eh? Question and answer Friday. Now listen, Tony Jr. and I were planning, and we'll announce it very quickly. We're just trying to figure out when we're going to do it. We're going to do a webinar again, okay? The Tony Jr., Tony Sr. show. We're going to do a webinar on blood tests. What blood test? I'm going to explain all that. We're going to explain it. Here's what we're looking at. Here's what we like. And not complicated. We're going to really break it down for you so that you understand it and know what to look for. Very important for your metabolic health. We're going to talk about your metabolic health and get anybody that listens, if they're in that 88% that are on the broad road, we'll get them off of it. We'll get them off it onto the narrow road of the 12% of the population that metabolically they're well. We'll show you how to figure that out. Okay. So tomorrow's question and answer, send your questions. It's not too late. Send your questions in. Okay? Tomorrow, always rapid fire question and answer. Okay? Reminds me of my radio days. Live. People used to ask me if I was scared because we didn't filter out the calls. Nah, I said I've been around a long time. If I don't know the answer to something, I'll tell them. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I did that. Okay. Call back and I'll give you the answer. Okay, now, share this on Facebook. Sign up for our emails, martinclinic.com, and The Doctor Is In podcast. Download it on your smartphone and you'll be smart. Okay. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.